And also, I want to be clear, I'm also standing in front of you today as the former Acting Commissioner of Customs and Border Patrol under President Donald J. Trump. Look, if you've been paying attention for the past 2 years or the past few hours, you know it's undisputed that what's happening in our southwest border is a self-inflicted, unmitigated catastrophe of a crisis that's unmatched in parallel in a modern history. But in today's political and ideologic-driven environment, the truth, reality, facts, and data, it's all pushed away. It's been hijacked by false narratives and blatant lies. The Biden administration, they've intentionally abdicated their constitutional responsibility to protect our nation's borders. And as such, they've jeopardized, yes, they've jeopardized every aspect of our nation's safety and national security. They have intentionally fueled and driven an unprecedented conversion of this misguided ideology and quest for political power that has devolved and eroded every aspect of our nation's safety and national security. They ignored explicit warnings. I was there. I provided his transition team warnings that if they did what they say they were going to do, that they would create the unmitigated crisis that we have today. They ignored and dismissed Border Patrol experts and leaders. They dismantled every effective tool and authority and policy that we had in place under President Trump that led to the most secure border in our lifetime. They intentionally, from day one, they dismantled every effective tool and authority and a policy. We worked hard to gain the safe third country agreements with all three northern triangle countries. Gone. We used leverage through strength to force Mexico to join this crisis, to increase their own country's interior enforcement, to secure their own country's southern border. Gone. We worked hard to develop policies like the Remain in Mexico program that single-handedly served as a deterrent to those wanting to come here and in violation of our laws, and we were able to secure our borders. That policy gone. ICE's ability to increase their interior enforcement to eradicate criminal illegal aliens walking our streets, gone. And of course, we all know the wall is gone. And we know that the results were predictable. And we know that the message to the entire world was sent loud and clear and acted as a light and a beacon that the United States borders were wide open. And today I stand before you, you don't have to be a border security expert. You get it, that's why you're here. That when you dismantle and destroy a strategy, a policy, an approach that's very simplistic in its design and strategy, that you provide deterrence to those that are thinking about violating the laws of our nation and applying consequences to those that do. When you destroy that and dismantle that, you're going to devolve our border into the wild, wild west that it is. Just like many cities are experiencing that right now that are driven by the same ideology and political driven policies. And in the last 25 months, I know some speakers have talked about it, but let's think about the numbers. In 25 months, 6 million total encounters and more than 1.7 million total gotaways. That's insanity. At this pace, in 48 months of this administration, this country is looking at encountering 14 million total encounters and gotaways. 14 million. Let that sink in. That, to put that in perspective even more, that would make it equivalent to the 5th largest populated state in this country, just under the state of New York. That, ladies and gentlemen, is insanity. Drugs are pouring across the country because of it, killing Americans every single day. And among the 1.7 million total gotaways, we know that there are some bad people. There are murderers, criminals. There are pedophiles, aggravated felons, and gang members, taking and claiming more American victims every single day. We know among the 1.7 million are potential national security threats, illegal aliens on the FBI's terror screening database. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing before you today. This is not hyperbole to say that we could have the next sleeper terrorist cell somewhere in the United States planning the next terrorist attack, and we would have no idea because this administration has abandoned their constitutional responsibilities. And let's talk about Lion Secretary Mayorkas, right? Yeah. Look, if I wasn't a God-fearing law enforcement, if I see him, well, I won't tell you what I think about doing to him sometimes. But seriously though, so one of his many lies is that he, wait for it, he's developed a safe, orderly, and humane illegal immigration process, right? First of all, that statement's just an oxymoron. And second of all, it's just stupid. And it's a deadly lie. Let me tell you the truth. In 25 months, CBP has recovered over 1,500 dead migrants at our borders. We know that up to 30% of young women and children that take the dangerous trek that turn their lives over to the cartels are assaulted or raped. 30%. We know that. And we know that their exploitation does not stop on the journey. That once this administration releases them into our United States, many of them, untold numbers, now become victims of untold trafficking. No, Secretary Mayorkas, that is not humane. That's actually the antithesis of humane. Yes, I agree. He should be impeached, and I've been calling for his impeachment for a long time. There is no other secretary that has come in and has looked at the law as a mere advisory opinion, right? I mean, he's abdicated his oath. He's overthrown his responsibilities, and he is absolutely responsible for what's going on our border. He's not simply carrying the water of the president. That's part of it, but he's also enacting policies that's directly leading to our borders being open. Under the Biden administration, 325,000 unaccompanied minors have been enticed to come to the border. Why? Because they've been promised the ultimate thing that they want is unfettered access to the United States. And we heard just a few weeks ago under congressional testimony, staff from his own administration have said that they have lost 85,000 unaccompanied minors. They have no idea where they are, but I know where they're at. They're at slaughterhouses and they're being sold for sex every single day in this country. That is a fact. And how? How is this okay? How do we allow the mainstream media to continue to stick their heads in the sand and cover for this administration? It's unconscionable. No, Secretary Mayorkas, our borders are not secured. No, Secretary Mayorkas, we do not have operational control. The cartels actually control large areas of our southern border. And every single day, their ability to expand their operational control and exploit the gaps are increasing. Enough is enough. How many more Americans have to die? How many more migrants have to die? And the time of talk is over. We've got to force politicians to stop playing this deadly political game. And I'm talking to both Republicans and Democrats. Our border security is not a blue or red issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. And it's time that we force Congress to pass meaningful legislation that will enforce and codify a strategy of deterrence, consequences, integrity back in our system. And our nation's approach to how we go after the enemy, and I want to make sure I'm very clear who the enemy is. It's the Mexican cartels. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot call them criminal organizations. They are the enemy, and we need to go after them like that. Our traditional criminal prosecutive approach that we have tried for decades has been a failure. We have to fundamentally shift how we go after them. We need to go after the cartels with the same whole of government approach, level of commitment, resources, and tenacity, just like we do terrorist organizations. And look, I want to be clear also, it would be best to have the cooperation of the government of Mexico, but I want to be very clear. Their agreement is not necessary. For us to return and regain our borders, to protect our nation's sovereignty and our safety and national security, we don't need an agreement with the government who has fueled and has the inability to protect and safeguard their own nation. And I'll end with this. Unfortunately, because the Biden administration has abdicated their constitutional responsibilities, they've abdicated and they've totally abandoned the rule of law. The truth, in fact, is the states, like the great state of Texas, they are now our nation's last line of defense. So we have to drive our state's politicians to continue to have discussions, to continue to look for new ways and new opportunities and innovative ways to fill the gap left by this administration and Secretary Mayorkas. Our country depends on it. Thank you.